Well, this painting is the Battle of New Orleans by Eugene Louis LeMay. It was painted in 1839. So obviously he's working from the stories and the myth of the battle. But he actually painted a fairly accurate portrayal of the battlefield. Now we have the death of Pakenham here. Pakenham, which actually shot off his horse twice. The second time was fatal. So one of the things that he has here is that Jackson had figured out that the British would want to attack the swamp side of the line because that had the lowest barrier. The trench in front, the moat in front, wasn't very deep, and the embankment behind wasn't very high. In fact, it was mostly made up of timber, of tree laid across, kind of like a log cabin, and mud chunked in there so they couldn't see through it. But it wasn't going to stop a lot of bullets and cannons. So that was the weakest point of the line. And because it was a straight line, a break anywhere on that line, the whole line would fail. That was the weakness of Line Jackson. One of the things that LeMay has painted here is the cotton bales. And what I think is fun is that they had cotton bales in the line until the January 1st artillery duel. In that duel, they fired off artillery so much that they set the cotton bales on fire. And Jackson ordered them to be pulled out of the line. So on January the 8th, the cotton bales were no longer in the line, except under the cannon batteries to support them. But as far as being on the embankments, the rampart, they didn't have any cotton bales. One of the things that he's done here, though, which is good, is that he shows how difficult it was for the British to get across the 8-foot moat. It was 8 foot wide and supposedly 8 foot deep. Looks like it's a little less than 8 foot deep here. The British were upset that the Americans would crawl up and take their rifles and point them down and shoot at point blank range into the moat and kill soldiers. They thought it was very cowardly. The fighters here, as you can see, some are in civilian clothes. On December the 14th, the people of New Orleans and southeast Louisiana were informed that there had been a battle on Lake Horn, and they were under imminent invasion alert. Up to this time, the people of New Orleans and southeast Louisiana were not exactly into the war. They actually had a lot of veterans from fighting on Saint-Domingue, and they understood how difficult it was for any army to penetrate the swamps and the forts surrounding New Orleans. So they hadn't really paid a lot of attention to the alerts that had gone on before. But once that battle took place on Lake Horn, then it was indisputable that the British were coming. The citizenry, the male population of southeast Louisiana turned out by the thousands. Overwhelmed Jackson. He couldn't believe. He couldn't, before he could have said the British are coming, and they would have said, okay, let me go to the opera and enjoy myself. Now they're coming out. The people of New Orleans, a lot of them did show up and fight in their civilian clothes. So he's good in that he's brought that out. We have Woodsman here as a Tennessean, and he's got the hunting jacket, and which would have been very common. They would have been dyed blue. That was the way the Tennessee militia would have had a round hat, which this guy has, a round hat. And so there's some reality here to what's going on. Jackson is here watching the battle over on this side. And Jackson had figured out where the British were going to come and how to stop them. So the only thing that's kind of weird is the way in which he's got the entrenchment zigzag, which is the way you would do it if you had a military engineer design your fortification. This was supposed to have been just a speed bump. Jackson made Mine Jackson just to buy time to actually fall back and do the real defenses in the lines that were behind there that were done in a zigzag fashion. The incompetence of the British is what made this such a debacle for them. They could not get through it. It's kind of hard to charge a line when you have French trained artillery taking out a company every time they fire off a cannon. So that was, the casualty rate was just so extreme. On January the 8th, they lost about 3,000 casualties in 20 minutes time. That takes a lot of fight out of them. But the British, when they moved back, they were not defeated. They were used to taking heavy casualties. They wanted to keep on fighting. It was only General Lambert, who knew that the war was coming to an end, who did not want to be the general in charge of a major loss of British life.